Alright, so this is gonna be part 4 to What If Deku Was Iron Joe. So before we get into the series, I gotta say a few things. First is that I know this series has been given a lot of attention because, I just really like this series and I just want to continue with it. So yeah, I'm gonna go in the next video. It's gonna be a different series. I'll probably go back to Overhaul for another video, and then after that, I don't know. So basically, I'm thinking of doing another review on a certain anime series that came out this season, and it's gonna be The Daily Life of the Immortal King. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because it's a Chinese anime, and I feel like those type animes don't really get enough attention, especially since a lot of people don't like it solely on the base that it is, Chinese. And what I mean by that is that it's voiced by Chinese people and it is in Mandarin or Chinese. So I'm just waiting until it's over. I'm not sure how many episodes it's gonna have, but if you know anything about Donghua or Chinese anime, they usually have really good animation, which The Daily Life of the Immortal King does. So in that kind of review, I will explain the kind of genre and kind of tropes that you'll see in a lot of Donghua or Chinese anime. And yeah, so in this part, it's gonna be basically that week between the USJ attack and the sports festival. So the person who's actually gonna get one for all in this is basically going to be Yuarashi, which is the person with the wind quirk. And the reason why is that I think Deku would have refused it because he wants to be a hero on his own right and not rely on other people's power. And I would think that was one of his convictions, right? So Yuarashi is the one that's gonna get it because he has a very, he has a similar personality, I would say, to Mirio, in the sense that he really wants to be a hero, but he's like very energetic, and he's almost like the opposite of Tamaki in a way, other than the fact that they both want to be heroes. So in that week that they would have to train, Deku would do the usual, which is basically lifting iron physically, or literally and figuratively, mostly strength training, as well as running to basically build up his stamina and to kind of build up his number. So like I said in the last part, his number really connects to his physical overall strength and speed, just how it is shown in the anime and the manga. So yeah, as well as the other classmates, kind of focusing on them, Yuarashi would be training with All Might to kind of focus his, or kind of learn how to use One for All. Because Yuarashi is a lot bigger than Deku in canon and has more muscle mass, he would have an easier time controlling One for All, since that's really what you need, is a lot of muscle to use One for All, at least without getting hurt. I don't think he'd be able to use all of it at once because his One for All is stronger than All Might's when he got it, so I don't think he'd be able to use it right off the bat, at least to the point where he can use 100%. I think at this point he would use around 20% or around 25% of One for All, at least in his kind of right now in the series, because we don't really know much of how Yuarashi has trained because he comes from a different school, or was from a different school. I guess in this one he isn't. So yeah, so after a bit after the week is over, this is where the sports festivals would actually start. So beforehand, they would have gotten that speech from Aizawa talking about how they had to try their best on the sports festival because this is a good opportunity to get your internships. So everyone's pretty much very, pumped for this event. They want to try their best. They want to get a good internship so they don't regret it in the future. So we would get to the day of the sports festival after that week of training, and this is where they're all in the kind of changing room to get ready for the event. This is where I believe Todoroki would say that he's gonna beat someone right during this fight, or during this event, but he doesn't go up to Deku this time. Instead, he goes to Yuarashi, because Yuarashi beat him during the recommendation, and he's overall a very powerful person, especially since his quirk rivals Todoroki in a sense, just in general kind of usefulness and versatility. And during the kind of USG attack, he was a big help on defeating Nomu. So he's really the biggest focus for Todoroki in this sense, and he doesn't really focus on Deku too much, because Deku, although he is very powerful in his own right, he's kind of being slept on at this point because no one really acknowledges his true strength. And Deku himself isn't one to brag, so no one really understands him too much except for a few people like Uraraka. Uraraka knows that he's very powerful since she was there during the kind of heroes versus villains test, as well as the the quirk assessment. So she knows that Deku can be really strong and doesn't really want to push it to, or she doesn't really, bring up Deku in the sense that she doesn't tell other people that he's very strong. That's what I'm trying to say. So Bakugo would be a little, not mad, but I think he would be very competitive at this point, and he would go up to both of them and he would say, both of you guys are gonna lose because I'm gonna be the one who's gonna take first place. And Yuarashi, before Bakugo actually came up, had an angry look to himself, right? He was kind of scowling towards Todoroki, and that's because he still sees Todoroki as kind of Endeavor, someone who doesn't really seem to be, the hero type, right? And he doesn't really like him too well, or too much, I guess. And after Bakugo had said this, his face quickly changes into more of an excited expression, and he says, he would do that thing where he would get really excited and say, yes, I hope that we both, try our best, but, who knows who's gonna win? And Bakugo's like, I just told you, it's gonna be me. And both of them, start chatting more and more, and Deku's just kind of seeing this, and he kind of smiles. And after this, the kind of sports festival actually starts off with Bakugo being the one who got the first place during the entry exam, being the one who does the speech. So he does the same speech as normal, and the crowd boos at him. Deku and Ida, Deku's somewhat mad, or not really mad. He's kind of upset or annoyed that Bakugo would say something like this. But Ida is more mad and kind of reprimands Bakugo for doing such. With the speech out of the way, the actual sports festival can start. So midnight would count down, and as she would get to 0 and everyone would go out, they would get stuck in the gateway of the exits. So most people would, get stuck in Class 1A, as they do in canon, would jump over them, and Deku would do so as such. He would jump over the entire group, using enough of his, strength in his legs to jump over the entire crowd. Which, if you saw the gateway, it's very long, it's a very long kind of hallway, or like I said, gateway. So Yuarashi would have the most advantage during this fight, or during this race, since he does have wind power, or the power over wind, and he could basically fly. So he has a very high advantage during this part, and is actually in first place, beating out Todoroki, who throws everyone behind him. But since they're able to break out of it pretty easily, Todoroki's second place isn't really secured, as Bakugo goes up behind him. So Deku, he's running, right? And he actually gets the idea of doing something pretty reminiscent of old Dragon Ball. And actually, this is what he does. Since he's able to throw iron at very far and fast, speeds, he actually makes a kind of pillar of iron, and this is where he throws it into the air, and he jumps on top of it, kind of like General Tao, I believe his name was. Or not General, Mercenary Tao from Dragon Ball. So if you ever seen old Dragon Ball, you know what I'm talking about, where he chops down a pillar or a tree and he just throws it and just right on top of it. That's what Deku basically does, and he gets closer to both Yuarashi and Bakugo. So Yuarashi's a bit ahead of both Todoroki and Bakugo, and he's around the kind of minefield. So he starts to hover more higher than he was before, since he doesn't want to be able to touch the kind of mines, and Todoroki and Bakugo are kind of fighting at the mines, while also trying to avoid them and not going as fast as they could. Todoroki would see that Yoroshi's getting further and further higher, and he would use his ice to kind of shoot him or shoot at him to kind of slow him down. And this is where where Deku would actually land. He would land straight in the middle of both Yoroshi and both Todoroki and Bakugo, and he would land in the minefield, causing a huge explosion, knocking everyone back. But Deku would quickly change to a piece of iron underneath him to ride the kind of shockwave, getting him to second place, because Yoroshi actually beats him in this. Yoroshi sees what's happening and actually goes even faster using his wind, and with Deku having to rely on the shockwave that decreases as it goes by, he actually gets second place, but it's a pretty close second place. So after that, Todoroki and Bakugo would be knocked back, giving the time for the rest of Class 1A to get ahead. So both Bakugo and Todoroki do not get second, or they do not get third or fourth place. So I would say instead, Ida actually gets third, while those two get around, not last, but pretty much near it because of the explosion causing them to jump back. So after that, this is where we would get to the next event, and this is the Cavalry battle. So the 3 team leaders would be Deku, Yoroshi, and Ida. So most of the teams are similar to what they were in canon. It's just that the inclusion of Yoroshi and Ida as a team leader. So since Ida is very fast, he would still be the leg, and that his team would be the same, with having Todoroki as the head, and the other two would be, I believe, Momo and Kaminari. So Bakugo's team would include the same people, it's just that Yoroshi would be there instead of, I guess, Bakugo. So he would be the head, since he has the most defense using his win, I guess. So yeah, and Deku doesn't want to make himself too seen, but because of the thing that he did earlier with the explosion, everyone kind of knows what he did and is the subject of the public eye, I guess. Because of that, everyone is aware of Deku now, and no one's really, I guess, sleeping on him anymore. They know of his, power, and they understand, he is a threat in this. So more people would go after Deku than usual, than he would usually get if he didn't, make that spectacle earlier. Yoroshi, since he's first place, a lot of people also would go for him, but since he has wind, it really is hard for people to get near him without getting blown away or getting their headband taken away using the wind. So he gets a couple of headbands pretty easily, while Deku's more on the defensive, trying to use his iron to basically block everyone off, which he pretty much does. He just makes an entire wall of iron bars around him, just how you see in the anime, and basically blocks everyone off. And you might be wondering, like, why don't they just break the the iron, right? Well, here's the thing, right? Deku's iron and Jail's iron, they are stronger than regular iron, because regular iron will break at some point or bend, right? But because of how the power works, it also is connected to their conviction/will. So since Deku has a very high will, anyone who has a lower will than him will not be able to break it. That's why in the last part, Shigaraki was not able to decay his iron, because he did not have a higher or equal conviction to him. So most people at this point in the tournament would not have as great a will as someone as Deku, and those who do not have the normal kind of physical strength to break it, right? Someone like Shinso probably would be able to break it if given the enough strength, right, or a way to actually break it, but he doesn't. So he basically survives this round untouched because of this, So yeah, Yoshi would get the most points, not just because he has the headband with the most points, but also being able to take away a lot of other people's points as well. Bakugo does not get into the finals, or I guess he does, since yeah, he would get enough people to I guess. Oh, actually, I don't know. I think Monoma would actually get into the final, since Bakugo would not have the final points to actually get to the top points, or the top like spots. So I would say in this one, Monoma actually beats out Bakugo just by running down the time and having enough points from other people that he's been taking from to actually do this. So yeah, this is gonna be the end of the video. In the next video, we're gonna go over the other half of the sports wrestle, as well as doing the stain fight. So if you like my content, please give it a like, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. We're like 3,200, something like that, subscribers. So if you want to contribute to getting me to 4,000, I'd really appreciate that. And if you made it to the end of the video, please comment down CS down below so that I know that you support the channel. Tell me down below what series you want me to do next, or different series you want me to do in general. And with that being said, this is going to be the video.